Amrit Rathod and Viresh Chatwal, two Indian Special Forces officers, returned to base after a 10-day mission. After handing over their weapons and getting their mobile phones, they learn that Amrit's girlfriend, Talika Singh, is in serious trouble. Talika's father, Baldev Singh Thakur, a mercenary and influential man, is forcing her into an arranged marriage with the son of his business partner. The girl begs for help to cancel the engagement, but Amrit has been out of touch for over a week, and it is already too late. The engagement is to take place soon, and he is unlikely to interfere. Tired of her father's constant nagging and moralizing, Talika agreed to the engagement but is firmly convinced she will marry Amrit. In the evening, an official ceremony takes place, during which the girl becomes the fiancée of a powerful businessman's son. During the celebration, rifles and machine guns are used instead of the usual salute, demonstrating the importance of this event. Arriving too late, Amrit suggests the girl run away, but she fears the weapons will be used against them. Talika wants to live a long and happy life with the Special Forces officer, not die with him on the same day, so she asks to wait a little. Amrit and Viresh are forced to cancel the operation to kidnap the girl, who informs them that she and her family will leave for New Delhi by train tomorrow afternoon. The next day, the two Special Forces officers board the same train as Talika to be near her. In the evening, a group of gangsters led by a criminal named Fani board it. Calling Benny, controlling the operation, the robber promises success and informs him of his car number, first asking it from the beautiful Talika. Amrit cannot live without the girl for a minute, so he follows her to the toilet and suggests they lock themselves inside. Opening the window slightly for fresh air and turning off the light, he creates a romantic atmosphere and proposes to the girl. Despite the dubious place for such a proposal, Talika agrees, and the happy couple kisses. It seems like an ordinary trip, and everyone is slowly preparing for sleep. But the bandits act cohesively and only distract people from the operation being prepared. Sending everyone a message notifying them of the start of the operation, one of the criminals activates a signal jammer so no one can call the police or relatives to report the nightmare. Receiving the message, Fani acts immediately and kills the train conductor, who did not expect such treachery from the guy who smiled at him a minute ago and talked about his university studies. The Special Forces officers, like other passengers, notice communication problems but do not yet suspect it is planned by the criminals. Isolating several train cars, the bandits block the passage with a metal partition and start robbing passengers, taking away their phones, laptops, money, and jewelry. During this, Fani notices Talika and decides to talk to her more closely. Her father's guard tries to protect the family, but Fani, deftly wielding a machete, kills him instantly. Knowing that he is not an ordinary passenger but a wealthy and influential Baldev Singh Thakur with his family, the criminal decides to use their family as hostages to get a large ransom. Amrit and Viresh obediently hand over their money and phones and then go to the neighboring car. Noticing that the girl's family is in danger, the Special Forces officers save them. Viresh protects Talika's mother and kills one of the criminals, who turns out to be Ravi's father and the gang leader's uncle. Amrit has to fight Fani and his friend, but his combat training forces the criminals to retreat to the neighboring car. Realizing that the robbers will soon return, Amrit and his friend take the family to the next, safer car. Before leaving his fiancée, Amrit learns that her younger sister went to the toilet and did not have time to return before the chaos began, so she may be in danger. Promising to take care of Ahna, the Special Forces officers prepare to meet the criminals angry at their first loss. Amrit and Viresh take positions in the passage between the cars, as this is a limited space, which will force the robbers to enter one by one. This gives the Special Forces officers an advantage, making it impossible to surround and attack them from behind. Acting cohesively, they wound and beat several criminals, throwing them back into the car. Amrit and his friend could handle everyone, but Fani takes a child hostage and promises to execute the boy if they do not surrender. Taking advantage of the situation, Fani shoots from a homemade weapon and wounds Viresh in the shoulder. After this, the armed robbers attack the Special Forces officers again and separate them. While Amrit fights Ravi, who mourns his father's death, Fani, using a machete, hits Viresh hard right where the bullet wounded him, then drags the man into the car where the bandits are. Interrogating a captured bandit, Amrit learns that the criminals blocked 4 cars. There are 36 robbers on the train, aiming to rob people and escape at one of the stops before reaching New Delhi. While Amrit develops a plan to save Ahna and his partner, the train stops and picks up Fani's father and a few more criminals who remotely led the operation. Once on the train and learning that his brother was killed, old Benny beats Viresh. Fani asks his father to stop and be smarter, as a rich Baldev is hiding in one of the cars, who can be taken hostage for a huge ransom. Realizing that the businessman's family is protected by one of the Special Forces officers, Fani proposes to act cunningly and quickly. For this, he climbs onto the train's roof and crawls towards Baldev and his daughter. At the same time, Amrit leaves the girl a knife for self-defense, asking her to lock the door behind him, and goes to help his friend. Reaching the neighboring car, the Special Forces officer guesses the trap and the hiding bandits. He fights several robbers simultaneously and defeats them, receiving only minor injuries. At some point, a giant city appears before him, proving too strong and resilient. The giant easily beats the Special Forces officer and, throwing a chain around his neck, drags him to the rest of the bandits. Benny beats Amrit, but Viresh takes advantage of the situation as no one is watching him. Freeing himself, he attacks one of the criminals and takes his weapon to cut the ropes. A brawl breaks out in the car, during which 2 teenagers, dreaming of becoming soldiers, help the Special Forces officers. They try to take the weapon from Benny and detain City, but the giant kills one of the boys, shocking the passengers with his cruelty. Viresh gets hit on his wounded shoulder with a sickle, loses a lot of blood, and can no longer continue the fight. Amrit remains the only one capable of resisting the criminals, but he freezes in place, seeing the unfortunate teenager's corpse. Taking advantage of the situation, City knocks out Amrit, but he turns out to be a sturdy officer and breaks several fingers of the giant. Meanwhile, Fani notices tied-up Ravi and bursts into the open door. Attacking Talika and her father, the criminal tries to hold them hostage for ransom. Baldev realizes he will not be harmed and attacks the bandits to buy a few seconds for his daughter. The girl uses this time to unlock the lock and try to escape, but Fani continues to chase her. Talika defends herself but does it awkwardly, only slightly injuring the villain. While Ravi beats her father and City strangles Amrit, Fani stabs the girl in the stomach and then strikes her back and neck. Killing the unfortunate and unarmed Talika, the criminal throws her body out of the train. Amrit tried his best to help the girl, but too many enemies were in his way. Waking up after being hit with a crowbar on the back and head, Amrit notices the bloody trail left by Talika on the glass. Immersed in memories of their last romantic date, the Special Forces officer recalls how he and his fiancée studied the lines on their palms. Talika claimed she loved him more than anything in the world, and their lifelines represented a single whole, as they were inseparable. Realizing that now all this is in the past, Amrit loses control and decides to be ruthless to the criminals who killed his fiancée. Anger and a desire for revenge fill the Special Forces officer with strength, turning him into a real monster that no one and nothing can stop. Breaking the necks and limbs of his enemies, Amrit kills everyone who stands in his way. Ravi could fight the Special Forces officer, but Fani realizes it's a futile effort and saves his friend. A bandit with a crowbar distracts Amrit, but the enraged officer grabs a fire extinguisher and turns the enemy's head into a bloody mess. Unwilling to give up, Amrit advances through the train cars, leaving a trail of bodies behind. He uses knives, machetes, and other weapons he easily takes from the criminals. Stunning one bandit with a fire extinguisher, Amrit kills City's father by throwing a knife into his mouth from several meters away. The bandits realize they are losing this war, and Benny suggests either fleeing or executing everyone. But Fani wants to keep Baldev alive, seeing him as financially beneficial. Fani believes that only the businessman can pay compensation to the families of the dead bandits. Learning that Talika is dead, her mother is devastated, but the family still doesn't know where their younger daughter is. Remembering his last promise to take care of Ahna, Amrit spots a rope and climbs onto the train's roof to return to the bandits' car. While Amrit leaves his wounded friend to watch over the rescued people, the bandits interrogate the remaining passengers, trying to find Baldev's relatives and friends. Soon a group of hostages manages to escape, but among them are two criminals. They wound Amrit, but he manages to throw one bandit off the train. The other is wounded, and Amrit asks him to deliver a message that the remaining villains don't have long to live. Panic and disagreements among the bandits begin to intensify, but they realize there is nowhere to retreat. Taking several hostages, they decide to move towards the Special Forces officers. Arriving in the neighboring car, the criminals see their dead friends hung all over the car. This delivers a strong moral blow to their cohesion and confidence, which Amrit counted on. At this time, the Special Forces officer circles behind the enemies and suddenly attacks them. Catching two in the toilet, Amrit beats them, smashing one's head on the toilet. The mother and aunt of the deceased teenager, along with a couple of men, voluntarily agree to help Amrit, but he doesn't suspect that one of these people is a traitor. Amrit doesn't think of stopping and continues to destroy the bandits, one by one. Meanwhile, Viresh and Baldev start a small fire to attract attention to the passing train. The administrator and on-duty police notice the fire, check the cars, and meet the rescued passengers. When the train stops, Benny orders Fani and a few accomplices to flee to save their lives. The police open fire but fail to hit anyone even from close range. Despite his father's order to flee, Fani decides to return to the train to implement the original plan and get the ransom for the businessman hostage. Soon, the furious city finds Amrit, ready to avenge his dead father. A fight ensues between them, where the Special Forces officer could lose again. The women try to help Amrit and punish the criminal who killed their son and nephew. Grabbing a hammer, one of them waits for the right moment and smashes City's skull. Learning about this, Benny and a few more thugs decide to catch the Special Forces officer and rush into the dark car. At this time, three criminals holding the hostages accidentally execute one of them. The police act decisively and kill the bandits, saving almost all the train's passengers. It seems like a success, but Fani appears on the scene, easily dealing with the police and taking all the remaining passengers hostage again. Amrit uses the darkness and kills Ravi, but ultimately he is captured and taken prisoner. At this time, Fani decides to fight the wounded Viresh again and kills him in a tough fight. Amid the events, a quarrel erupts between Fani and his father, which the Special Forces officer, who lost his friend and fiancé, uses. Driven mad by grief, Amrit kills several criminals, including Fani's father. Blinded by revenge, the Special Forces officer deals with all the bandits, and only one manages to escape. Fani is shocked by his brutality, as he has killed only 4 of them, while Amrit has killed over 40 bandits. In the final showdown, Fani acts deceitfully and attacks with a machete, stabbing Amrit in the stomach and back with a knife in his other hand. Despite multiple wounds, Amrit manages to avenge his fiancé's killer by executing the villain with his bare hands. The train arrives at its final station, where it is met by Special Forces, police, and paramedics. They hurry, trying to catch the surviving criminals and help the wounded passengers. Amrit pays no attention to this, as he sees the ghost of the deceased Talika, begging him to continue living for both of them.